This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the very best podcast for regular comic book fans. I'm your host, Mike Rapin. Joining me this week, two mermaids who are friends and will definitely not be eating me for lunch. This week, I'm joined by Kait Lamphere.
Mike, I've got to eat. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. And our very special guest for this episode, Meredith McClaren.
Hello, hello.
Thank you both for joining me this week. I'm super excited to talk about comic books, as I am every single week, but specifically with the two of you. But before we get into that, I have to introduce our guest. Meredith, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you. We are very big fans of all of your work. But for the folks at home who may not know who you are and what you do, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you've been doing recently?
So I'm an illustrator. I'm based out of Arizona, which means I'm stuck inside all day. So why not draw comic books? I usually do fantasy and horror and a lot of journal comics.
Sure, yeah.
Yep. So kind of all over the map.
Well, folks may know you from some of your recent books, such as Black Cloak and Crumble, and you've got a book coming out later this year called Meat Eaters.
Yes.
I will say I read your one of your more recent books. Also, it's all Greek. Absolutely loved it. I mean, ever since I saw your work on Black Cloak, I basically said, how can I get my hands on anything else you can draw? So I'm just a little bit of a fan. And Excellent. I think some of the other folks on the show are as well as a lot of our listeners. So we're super duper excited to have you here. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of your books and what you've been working on a little bit later in the show. But we have to get into the legally mandated questions that I have on every episode of IRCB. That is, how have you been? How have comic books been? So let me kick it right back to you, Meredith. How have you been? What have you been reading?
I've been busy. I haven't been reading very much, but I did just start on Absolute Batman. So I'm very pleased with that. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know anything about the Absolute universe. I only found out about it because I did a variant cover for Kelly, who's doing Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And that cover will actually be out. And I don't know when this goes out, but end of this month in May when we are filming. So
okay, yeah,
So
cool.
No, I always joke with people. The thing about being in comic books is it leaves you no time to actually read comic books,
right?
So I don't get to read them very often.
Gotcha. Well, I'm a huge fan of the Absolute line, I guess. Are you a big Batman reader in general, or was this like one of your first Batman books in a while?
First one in a while. Although there was another one that just piqued my interest, and I think it's the same artist who's launched with Wonder Woman, Batman. From
Hayden Sherman?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm blanking on this because I'm surprised I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah. I think it was just announced this week.
Is it Dark Patterns?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw the. I'm easy. All you need to sell me on something is the cover. So
totally, no, I feel that.
I saw that cover. I'm like, oh, but no. So I'm also friends with Nick Dragato, who's the artist on Absolute Batman, and he was the one who sent me the first issue over to peruse, and I'm like, okay. And like I said, I didn't know anything about the Absolute universe. I know that it does have some history in the comics. I know it has something to do with Darkseid, I think, messing up the timeline or whatever. I think That's the actual impetus of it. Several years ago, and it's one of those many ideas people are like, what if, and they touch on it once and then they leave it alone for like a decade, and then someone comes in and goes, oh, actually this is a really nice sandbox. Right. So it took me a minute to pick up what the overarching theme of the Absolute universe was, which, would these superheroes still be these superheroes if you took away the one crux of their origin story?
Interesting. Yeah. Oh man, now that I'm putting it together, I guess I did not realize that at all, because I feel like I was jaded because I'm also reading a lot of the Ultimate books, right? Like over at Marvel, and their whole thing is that, this evil Reed Richards went back in time and stopped all of the origin stories for all the characters. And I'm realizing
is
now
that what it is now?
That's what the Ultimate line basically is different universe.
I was there at the beginning, and first it was just, we're gonna reboot everything because we've lost people. There's too much canon now.
Yeah.
And then it just became the line for me where it's like, oh, when you die in this universe, it's forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's what it always became for me after that.
Yeah. I it's funny because I think the new Ultimate Universe is like, it's a reboot of a reboot, right? Like
they're all reboots of reboots of reboots.
Yeah. But this one is orchestrated by Jonathan Hickman, so everyone's excited, right? That's the only difference.
Okay, and when did this one start? Because I might be behind the time.
I think we're like almost a year into it, right? I think is when it started. Yeah.
I won't know anything about
No,
this
that's
one.
okay. That's okay.
I'm behind.
Well, like you said, you're constantly, I mean, like, I am impressed. I mean, I've seen your stuff all over the internet. Obviously, you've got a bunch of books coming out. Like, you're working on so much. Where do you find the time to read comics? So I guess Absolute Batman should feel lucky that with the amount of time you have free, you could sit down to read it.
I mean, I was very pleased that it's what landed in my inbox. But yeah, it's like, I don't get the time to actually allot to like assign this is my reading hour or whatever, and so it's like it's whatever happy accident finds me. I'm like, oh, the universe has provided me 20 minutes to look at something, and this is what's here, so this is what I'm reading.
Very cool. Well, Kate, let me bounce over to you. How have you been? How have comic books been? What have you been reading?
Yeah. Well, once again, I find myself with too many books from the library and not enough time to read them. So this is my own fault, really.
Right.
And it is finally gardening season. So I'm starting to put my seed starters down for my like little salsa garden in the back. So that's exciting. It's a reason to leave the house, even if it's only by 5 feet. So
yeah, I hear you. I've been trying to make things grow in the ground and it's not working.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky. Like it's harder than it seems like it should be.
Well, and then, I was one of those people where I was like, do I have to buy seeds or can I just get out of produce? And I have friends who are more avid gardeners than I am. And they're all like, so there's this thing in grocery plants where they're designed to be infertile. And I'm like, oh,
really?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. It was a thing I learned. And so I'm like, I'm in the impasse of, are these seeds genetically modified to be infertile, or am I just bad at gardening?
Yeah. Good question.
So I'm giving it one more go, and then I'm just going to go, okay, we're going to get the other seeds and solve the store-bought seeds and solve the mystery.
Yeah. Well, some of my starters didn't come up, so I just bought beautiful like 9-inch plants the other day from the farmer's market. So I'll have some beautiful peppers, but we'll see about everything else. Maybe those won't happen. Anyway, okay. So the thing that I've read recently that I wanted to talk about the most, because I can't stop thinking about it, is the Fox Maidens by Robin Ha. And this is set in 16th century Korea during the Joseon era, where there were like strong class divisions and cultural sexism, and then also this rich folklore tradition, and beautiful clothes. The story follows the main character, who's a girl, and she wants to follow in her father's footsteps and train as a warrior, which isn't allowed in their culture at that time. There are also rumors that she's the granddaughter of a gamiho, which is a 9-tailed fox demon, that don't have like a great reputation, at least in this story. And I feel like this book follows like a strong 3-act structure. And so like that's just setting up the first act, and anything else would be spoilers for you. But there are like clear beats where something major happens or changes, and then that's like the end of the act, and the next act starts, and like it's like the fallout from that. And I feel like Act 1, the beginning of the book, starts really slow, and it builds this rich foundation of like mythology and culture and family dynamic, and then this character, like where she comes from, who she is, and being surrounded by all of these rumors. and then you get through the whole book, and then you get into the third act, and that's the end of the book, and it ends like the other acts, which is like on this like hard shift. Something changes, and it like throws off like what you thought the story was, but then the story ends, and I'm like, no, what happens?
You're
What
left bereft. Yeah.
So when I rated this book after I read it, I gave it 4 stars because it was really good, but I was so mad. But I keep thinking about this story. Like, I can't stop thinking about it.
And this is just like a one and done book then?
Yeah. This is like a pretty thick.
Oh, that's so mean.
Oh. Yeah. So I went back because I keep telling people about this book. So I went back and I changed my rating to 5 because I can't stop thinking about it, but I'm still mad. This was a really well planned story though. Like there are characters who like balance one another in terms of like their role in the story or like what they mean to the main character, and even like the villains of the story aren't really villains. Like you get their point of view and can understand why they act the way that they do. Like really well-rounded characters. So I highly recommend this. Mike, this might be my pick for next year's podcast reading challenge for all of our listeners or our Goodreads followers.
Whoa. In May you found your book for next year. Wow. That's great. Well, folks, start reading now so you can get ahead on next year's reading challenge. We'll just say that. No, this looks really pretty. Man, Kate, I don't know how you find these books.
Interiors on it, but I saw the cover's stunning. So
right, but I mean, like you said, though, I'm sold on the cover. Just like they've gotten me.
I checked it back in the library
it's doing
already.
Its job.
Yeah,
I'd give you a peek if I still had the book around. I might have to buy it though because I keep talking about it. So.
I mean, this is what libraries are for, right? It's just about like trying as many books as you can and then buying the ones that you really love.
Yeah.
That's my ultimate like rave review is where I'm like, okay, I need a physical copy of this book,
100%. Well, yeah, that sounds great, Kate. Let me talk about what I've been up to, what I've been reading. So last night it was very nice here in New Jersey. Like unbelievable perfect weather. Went out and did some Pokemon Go stuff during the day where it was a little too warm. Got 4 shiny Regigigas or Shadow Regigigas, so I feel pretty cool about that. And I after that, Kelly and I had dinner, and then we were like, oh, there's this thing they do in town where you can go to like our local farmers market and they put up a big screen and you can watch movies. And they were showing The Muppets 1979. And I've never seen that movie before, which is crazy because yeah, exactly. I've seen like so many other Muppet movies, and I've seen a bunch of the Muppet TV show, but I never saw the like 1979 movie. Of course, I knew every single song somehow. Like we sat down and watched the movie, but it was an absolute treat. And after I finished the movie, I like looked over at Kelly and I was like, she's totally loved it. She's seen it a million times. And I was like, I've known her for 15 plus years of my life. And I was like, I finally understand where all of your humor comes from. And it is that movie.
I found your formative media.
Exactly. But it was a great time. I had a blast. I was definitely cackling like the loudest person to the point where people I think were turning around and be like, that bit was funny, but it wasn't that fun. I was like, it was that funny to me. Okay, guys.
On a first time viewing, it can be that funny.
Yeah, it was absolutely great. So had a good time with that. And but I did sit down and read some comics. I read a bunch of stuff recently. I read I had a list somewhere and I lost it, but I read a bunch of stuff. And I was going to talk about a different number one, but then CK on our Discord recommended that I sit down and read Resurrection Man Quantum Karma number 1. This is a pretty new DC comic that came out, written by Ram V, pencils and inks by Anand RK, with one page done by Jackson Butch Guse, colors in the book by Mike Spicer, and letters by Aditya Bidikar. I had never heard of Resurrection Man. Like, I think I knew the name. Like, there's some character named Resurrection Man, and there's a DC character probably on like the C tier, but whatever. Never read anything about this character. Never read a book with this character in it. And Danny, I forgot I should also say, Danny also reviewed this book on his channel, and I didn't watch the video. I'm sorry, Danny. So I didn't know how good this book was. But nonetheless, I'm not someone who typically reads non-Trinity titles, right? Like, I'm usually reading Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. That's pretty much the extent of where I usually go, except it seems like all of these various C-level, B-level, whatever characters get all the great books, and that is including this one. My last foray into like non-big Trinity characters was the John Constantine book that Cy Spurrier did, which was stunning. Highly recommend that. That will probably be my pick for next year's reading challenge, if I'm being honest, Kate, if we're talking about that type of planning right now. But nonetheless, the idea behind Resurrection Man as a character is very insane. Like, whatever killed this guy last is what he gets protection from when he's resurrected back to life. That's like his whole shtick. He's got a mystical power where, like, if he gets burned to death, well, he wakes up and now he has like ice powers and can't be burned. Like, if he gets shot by bullets, he's invulnerable to bullets. Like, it's very much like a classic 50s era comic book character idea of like, let's take this thing and then the opposite is what he's protected from.
And then does he shed the last one?
Yeah, so
okay.
I think like when he dies, he sheds the last one, but there's like kind of a hint. And again, I've read nothing about this character but this new number 1, and that's the pitch that they kind of give you on page 1. There seems to be an implication that there's more to the power than that, which leave it to Ram V to take like a really simple idea and expand it into this like multiversal break your mind idea, which is exactly what Quantum Karma number 1 is. But yeah, it seems to be that he has a little bit of something left behind from each of his lives.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a very straightforward idea, and Ram V then takes this and gives this pitch for a character where we don't really know what happened to Resurrection Man. The story follows his family as they're kind of leading their life, or the story follows a family as they're leading their life, and like their grandparent is about to pass away. And spoilers, that is the Resurrection Man. Now, the question is, what happens when you die from old age with this power? And that is what the core of this book is about.
That is very cool.
It's a really, really cool idea. And I don't think I've spoiled anything because that is like the center of the book. And then the last 4 or 5 pages gives you a hook that I was like, you didn't even need to hook me on this book. The core idea is enough to sell me because it leaves you with so many questions. And then there's like a villainous hook that kind of brings you back even deeper into the book. So fantastic number 1. Again, leave it to Ram V to sell me on something absolutely stunning in story. And then we get Anand RK, who is drawing the hell out of this book, drawing some of the most visceral pages that I'm surprised DC allows in their modern 2025 style. Getting real nasty and gory and just kind of gross at times. It reminds me of some like old Swamp Thing stuff from like the 80s, where like we're getting way into the literal like meat and bones of people to try to show you things that are happening on page. And I really have to credit like the team of Anand RK and Mike Spicer for delivering such incredible pages. There's one panel in particular that's just like a cut across the middle of a page that gets real deep into the sinew of a person's face in flame. And I was just blown away by the detail in just that little like 1/6 of the page. And that is a sample of what you get in this whole book, right? There's a 2-page spread that just like floored me.
I think I'm looking at it right now with the clock gears.
The clock, yes, the big 2-page spread.
I had never heard of this person. I'm glad you brought them to my attention.
Yeah, this is the thing. I'd never heard of them either. Maybe I'd seen their work somewhere else. I'm not connecting the dots, but like nonetheless, this book looks fantastic. It reads fantastic. I expect Ram V and his collaborators to deliver something exceptional, and they did not disappoint with number 1. So yeah, this book is fantastic. If you haven't given it a chance, highly recommend it. Shout out to Danny and CK who have been pushing this book on me, and I've ignored them up until recently, so I'm sorry for that. But it's on DC Universe Infinite, and that's how I got to read it. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I have a strong feeling this is one of those books that's just going to get collected, and I'm going to buy the hardcover because it, even just number 1, makes me think, I'm still thinking about the idea of this character, and I'm loving what the team is doing with the book so far. So highly recommend Resurrection Man Quantum Karma number 1. It's so cool. So cool. But anyways, let's move on. Let's talk about comic books that we're looking forward to reading next. Comics on the top of our pile, whether it's new or old or just something you're trying to get off of your shelf. I want to shout out some of our folks that are hanging out with us on Discord today. They let us know what they're reading next. Danny is going to be reading Superman Unlimited number 1. Avocado Kenobi is reading Fantastic 2 and Fantastic 1, which is Fantastic 4 number 31 and 32. I guess that's the title of the issues. That's a weird way to describe that. But Paul G is going to be reading On Mars, which I think is a Kickstarter book, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
That one.
And Nick is going to be reading Out of Alcatraz, which I do want to say damn you, Nick. He turned me on to Out of Alcatraz, which is a Tyler Crook comic.
Yeah, I was going to say Tyler always delivers.
Stunning book. Yeah, really cool if you're into like Nick would always pitch it to me as a conspiracy theory comic because it's like about the guys that supposedly disappeared after escaping from Alcatraz. But the first issue was really, really cool. I'm looking forward to reading more of that as well. But also you get Tyler Crook's art, which is just out of this world. But anyways, let's start with Meredith. What is on the top of your pile? What comic are you going to be reading next?
It's actually one I don't know much about, but it's been friends of mine have read it. They've suggested to me, and it's what little I know about the premise is enough where I'm like, oh yeah, this sounds great. It's called She Likes to Eat, She Likes to Cook, She Likes to Eat, which is a manga. I really should have remembered to look up who actually wrote it.
I read this entire series recently, and I think I finished it 5 volumes in like 4 weeks. Like as soon as the library could get it to me.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, I know, Kate, you're a big fan of this book.
Yeah, I love this.
Sakomi Yuzaki. Yeah, it's a correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a slice of life comic where it's 2 middle-aged women who one of them likes to cook and one of them likes to eat. And I believe there's a growing affection between them. But you know, that's right up my alleyway. I love that so much. So,
it's very sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't
art
eat
is
it,
very cute.
or I couldn't read it without a snack nearby though, because it really is a
one
food
of those.
manga.
Yeah. Sometimes I keep forgetting that's just like there's sports manga, which is like you're gonna have these really compelling character stories, but they're also going to explain the minutia of like, you know, this is a certain, you know, volleyball a range of attack. You know,
right.
It's like we know every single part of this. Then sometimes you get food manga where it's like, you know, I will lovingly depict every single grain of rice and maybe tell you where it's from and what the history of this rice. I'm like, okay.
It's not quite that in depth.
Some of them though, like I remember years ago there was a wine comic and it was like,
Drops of God.
We're gonna learn some stuff.
Yeah. They made an Apple TV show out of that. That was a really good adaptation. Totally very different from the manga, but also very
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like I came here for, you know, either drama or something cute, and now I am learning things. I'm
right.
Like, okay.
I know way too much about wine now, and I wish that I didn't have a map of France burned into my brain about where these grapes came from.
Let's all become sommeliers.
Right. Yeah. Oh man, Drops of God. Oh my gosh, that's like one of those manga that I was like, I didn't know I could learn so much from a comic book. You know,
there's one that I do. It came out years ago, and I still haven't picked it up, and that's kind of like a mark of shame for me. But it's all about the history of the cup of noodle, and I'm like, I need to get this manga.
That's cool.
Yeah, because there was so much that went into it. It seems like such a simple premise, but it's like no, they had very late angry nights yelling at each other about this product.
I love an idea that is just like cheap comfort food for a lot of people is just like there's like 100 men and women in business suits just like yelling at each other over smoking cigarettes about like the design must be this way. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, you have to let us know how you like She Likes to Cook, She Likes to Eat. If I'm not mistaken, there's an anime of this as well.
Is there?
Oh, I think
I swear. Maybe it was announced. Maybe it was just announced. Okay.
I feel like I would have started it by now if it was out already.
That's true. I guess that you probably would have told me. Live action TV drama. That's what it is.
Is it out?
Oh.
As of October.
Season 2 came up in my search bar. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear about this. Okay, I couldn't find it.
It looks like it might be on Apple TV.
Here we go. All right, we're all going to hit pause really quick on recording, and then we're going to go watch that, and then we'll come back. Well, no, either way, let us know what you think if you watch the show or whatever. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because Kate has been speaking the praises of this book for a very long time. And I need to sit down and read it. And if it's only 5 volumes, I don't know. I have no excuse at this point. That's easy reading for a manga as far as I'm concerned. Well, Kate, tell us about what you're reading next.
Yeah. So this is one of the many library books that has been sitting in my living room for a few weeks now, but it looks very good, and I am going to read it.
Okay.
Before it stops automatically re-upping my checkout. This is called The Hills of Estella Roja, and it's by Ashley Robin Franklin, and it's a young adult spooky modern mystery, of which I have read many of and enjoy a lot. This follows a college freshman who gets an anonymous tip to check out some mysterious lights as research for her podcast. So very appropriate for me to talk about now.
Classic. That's the modern day, like... That's the modern day, like, TV show or like research. I'm going to write a book about this. It's like, I'm going to make a podcast, right? It's teenagers thinking they can make podcasts. They have no idea how much work it's... Anyways, never mind.
You know, the week get cold early. So.
Yeah.
And then nobody knows who the murderer is.
True.
Yeah. Okay. So in The Hills of Estella Roja, this girl along the way, she meets up with an old friend who then goes and helps her investigate this. In the description on the back of the book, it's implied that this story contains a romance. So, yeah, this just fits right in with like queer spooky stories that we all read.
Can't get enough of those.
This sounds right up my alley, and I think Kate Scotchless, another one of our co-hosts, might like this book as well.
Definitely.
It reminds me, just the description. Have you read? I think it's Hello Sunshine. Like Kesey? It was just nominated for an Eisner, and it's this, the spooky teen queer romance sort of thing. So
we've got that Eisner episode coming up. Sounds like a book you could read, Kate.
I haven't read it yet. It's on my very long to read list, though.
Oh, this is Kesey Young. Yes. Okay, now it's all clicking into place.
It looks beautiful. Mike, again, we all have the to read piles that just get higher and higher and higher. So,
my to read pile at home is probably a good 70 books tall, I guess, if I were to stack them all up. But in Goodreads, which I've been tracking since 2012, it's like 300 or 3,000 books, comics and novels. So
I've seen a couple. I know Book Talk has started, those reading maps you got for summers in the summer from libraries.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they're doing those, but like for people who are grown who just need the impetus to get through their reading list now. Sure. Like that probably works really well. We all need a little color map. So.
Yeah, I've been trying to find like a reading challenge with prompts every year, and only picking books from my to read pile to try to get through those, which has turned up some things that I would probably not have picked today, but have been on my list for 10 years. So, but it's been kind of fun.
Excellent.
Nice. Well, let me talk about a book that I'm going to be reading next, and that is Viscere number 1 and 2. This is an anthology, a body horror anthology edited by Katie Skelly. I don't know. I just see stuff on Instagram sometimes. I follow Katie Skelly. I really like her work. I really like all the her vampire book is just absolutely fantastic that she did from Fantagraphics not too long ago. And I've been following her stuff on and off just like over the years, like since I saw a random comic on the Comixology homepage way back in the day. And so the fact that she's editing this body horror anthology, I was like, let's check it out. I don't really know how to pitch this because it's an anthology, right? So it's just like, here's a bunch of different artists. They all did comics of varying length of different body horror things. And just looking at the first one, looking at the previews of the first one, I'm already grossed out. So I'm going to have a fantastic time reading this book. Like, there is a preview of a page, and I'm going to just say content warning. If you are not into body horror, just skip over the next 30 to 40 seconds. But there is a page where it looks like someone is like putting fingers down a person's throat, and that like creeps me out to no end. And the way that this person drew it, I was like, oh, you really know how to get under people's skin. So I'm super excited to see where the rest of that story goes, let alone the like 8 or 9 others in issue 1 and issue 2. So yeah, if you're looking for something that's a little gross, check out Viscere 1 through 2.
It's always great when you can tell an artist is a member of like Reddit medical injuries.
Wait, is that a thing where people will like?
It is a thing. I have it bookmarked because I do so many creepy comics, and I'm like, this is going to put me on a watch list one day.
Oh man, well, if we end up getting into investigative podcasts and you become a subject, I can't wait to cover it. I guess that's
all right. First comic artist to cross over into actual hardcore murder.
Right.
Distinction. We get closer every day.
That's what a crazy place to find, I guess, inspiration. But I guess where better to find it if not there on Reddit than somewhere else. Otherwise, you have to have like a police like friend or a forensic friend or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, well, and it gives you a lot of things where it's like this was not related to murder.
Sure.
This was an accident.
True. Yeah, well, I won't get on the soapbox about my wife's previous job, but maybe in the post credits we can talk about that.
I have my dad. He consults with police officers all the time, so yeah, I'm in that group of people where it's like, why are you telling me this? This is more than I wanted to know.
I gotcha. Well, I guess to wrap up the show then, and not stay on talking about medical
murder?
Horrors and murder. You have a couple of books that came out recently and that are coming out. You recently released a book called Crumble through, I actually didn't know who this publisher was.
Yeah. It's Little Brown.
Little Brown, okay.
Little Brown Young Readers, which is subsect of Hatchet. Originally, I think on the book cover, it actually says Algonquin, but there was like a hiccup and they got folded into Little Brown. So it's a little hazy.
Gotcha. Well, you worked with Andrea Bell on this, and I know that they were on tour at one point through a bunch of comic book shops and stuff to kind of show this book off. So for folks that maybe don't know, could you tell us a little bit about this book? Because it looks absolutely adorable, and I'd love to know how you started to collaborate with Andrea on this.
So back when I was in college, one of our professors in our concept design classes was like, sometimes the best ideas come from like the simplest concepts, which is like, what if you take just a saying everyone has and make it like totally deathly serious? Like, what if you were to actually kill time or something like that?
Right.
And I was having a bit of a moment, and I thought about the adage of eating your feelings. And I thought, what if you could really do that? And what kind of person can make those feelings edible? And so it's about a little girl named Emily who can bake feelings into desserts for everyone to enjoy. So if you're feeling a little down, you can have a dessert that's full of excitement or determination or, exuberance. And, but then she finds out that it's not limited to good emotions and why you're not supposed to do the bad ones.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Is there a way I can learn this power? I'd love to.
So would I, I thought I was a baker too before I started this book. And then I actually had to sprinkle it with a couple recipes. And I'm like, oh, I don't know anything.
Oh, interesting. So
yeah.
Are you saying you're not a big baker, or is it just something that you're
a moderate baker?
Okay.
I'm the kind of person who's like, I will bake a thing and then I'm like, yeah, this is good enough to eat. I made it. I've used the ingredients I need to eat it. I mean, some of those recipes, the recipes that made it into the book are good, but there's only like 5 of them, and there's I went through a lot to go like, these are fine, these are solid. People will like these.
No, I love it. We've said multiple times on this show that we love any comic that comes with any kind of recipe in the back. We think more comics should just come with recipes. If food is briefly mentioned in a book, there should be a recipe in the back of that comic book,
I mean, I did a bigger cookbook. I think it was around COVID. And that one was just purely candy recipes. And it was fun and people liked it, but it was also the book that I got the most feedback on. And I was like, it's just, I quickly learned that was the easiest one to mess up as a cookbook. And so I'm like,
I see.
Never doing this again. And then I proceeded to immediately do Crumble, where I'm like, okay, just 5 more and then it'll be fine. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I can't learn my lesson.
Well, how did you meet Andrea and how did you get work with her?
So we were actually initially I pitched it with myself and my own art, and I'm kind of, because Hatchet and Algonquin then and then Little Brown later, they are more in the prose space, and after Smile and everything, they're feeling confident enough to sort of edge into the comics area. We're still trying to sell them on, getting out of the middle grade teen genres and expanding into, comics for every age group, but, baby steps. But yeah, so they were a little hesitant. Like, I guess I had a style that they weren't quite sure yet that they could sell.
Okay.
So they're like, we really love this idea. We don't want to do it with your art. And so my agent hooked us up, me and Andrea up together, and was like, are you interested to do one? She had just done a book, The Leak, on like small town journalism.
Okay.
And yeah, Andrea is absolutely lovely. And everything she did for the book was like, thank you for making this better.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's a beautiful looking book. But yeah, no, it's interesting that we could leave the Hachette stuff, to the side.
And
but
also it made it the first book where it was like, I had to be solely in the writer's spot and not, filling both the writer and the artist position. So it made me script differently too, because it was like, when you're the artist and the writer, you can just sort of go to a page and go, stuff. And you'll know what you mean. And then when you're writing for someone else, you're like, oh, I have to really get into what the stuff is.
Gotcha.
Was it hard to not like comment on her art and be like, can you make this, different in this way?
No. It's probably a testament of her being really good at her job. And then also I'm very much like, once the ball's out of my court, I'm sort of like, I'm content to just see what you do and let you run with it. And like, so, which I didn't know that going in. I had no idea what kind of collaborator I was going to be, if I was going to be the kind of person who's like, no, they need to, be looking this way and not that way, and nitpicky. But no, I found when I got to Andrea's stuff, I'm like, it's I had a lot of confidence, in what she was doing. And I'm like, I don't think I need to step into this space. I think you got it. So
that's great. That's really great to hear. I mean, I imagine that you wouldn't get paired with someone that you wouldn't work well with, but that's still really cool.
I mean, it's been known to happen. But,
yeah.
It's the secret fear of all comic book people. But yeah, I don't know how soon I would be stepping into that space again, because it is my preference to draw the stuff that I write, regardless of how wonderful a collaborator may be. Is like, I'm still like, I want to draw all the all the stuff. That's fun, but it's also maddening.
Yeah. I did wonder, that made me think of reading Black Cloak and how there are a whole bunch of different character designs, like including background characters. So like, was that just all you, or did you like work with Kelly Thompson about like brainstorming?
I would say it was like 70-30. Yeah, most of the time I wasn't getting notes as to what kind of creatures populate Black Cloak world. And actually, I think Kelly's spoken on this before. I think she said, but if I misspeak, please, then I don't know anything. Part of the reason she picked me for the book, other than she wanted another reason to work with me, is that she is more fond of the sci-fi space and I'm more fond of the fantasy space. So,
oh, cool.
So when we were going into that comic, she's, I was the one, and she's like, I want to do this character. They have these kind of traits. Do you know a kind of creature that fills this criteria? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, this sounds like, this Slavic dragon kind of creature. And so I was the one. So a lot of the creatures, I'm like, okay, I know these deep cuts as far as mythology. I don't think I use the deep cuts. I think I kind of leaned on, these are the more generally known characters like satyrs and fairies and pixies and stuff. But every once in a while, I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about this creature that nobody knows about. And I think I threw Slender Man in a couple times too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
but then,
I was going to say volume 2 maybe features a little bit of a Slender Man,
Yeah, no, when she gave me the criteria, the brief on Alden, I'm like, this is a Slender Man character. This is what he is. Totally. He's a little beanpole, but the twist is that he is the sweetest creature ever.
Yeah.
But to go back to your original, so I'd be populating, these scenes with all these, whatever creature I think could fit in that. But every once in a while she'd find something from the internet and she's like, I need to put this in the comic. And one of them was actually, we called them the Death Shards. They're the flaming skeletons. That was inspired by something I drew ages and ages ago as just a one-off. But so she'll give me one of those, or she'll give me like this little statue of a porcelain dinosaur. And she's like, I think this belongs in Black Cloak. And I'm like, okay, I'll figure somewhere. That's put cute. It. I think we put those birds, the Muppet birds, what is it?
The frog mouth. Yeah. I don't know. I was
we put Fraggle. Those in there, I think that was Kelly's idea as well. So yeah. Okay. So about 70-30.
Yeah, I really liked the character design for the larger, like, salamander looking guy that helps him with the maids.
Yeah, that's the Slavic dragon. I believe they're called a Bukovac.
Yeah, I loved like his face and like all of his piercings.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yes, I like him a lot.
Yeah. So when you mentioned that you would like to read more, do you mostly read like urban fantasy, or do you have other genres that you like gravitate toward?
What I read a lot of is the slice of life stuff and nonfiction stuff, if I can get a hold of it.
Yeah, I feel like
I think that comes from, I've always got stuff playing, I've got stuff playing in the background while I work, but it's stuff where I'm like, it's stuff that I can only like superficially engage with. So it's a lot of documentaries. It's something that I can't watch. That's like, you have to really you have to be really engaged with either what they're saying or what they're doing. And I can't do either of those things while I'm working. So I end up with a lot of documentaries. And I think that bleeds over into what I'm reading.
Yeah.
But also just because real life is always very strange and fascinating.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel like in terms of comics that there's a surprising number of like nonfiction, like it gets very varied. Like I always have to check out the nonfiction section for the comics whenever I go to the comic book shop or my library or something, because I've read like the comic book history of beer, or like you mentioned like the Cup of Noodles comic, and it's so interesting.
I think I've boothed beside the history of beer people before, and they've got a good shtick.
Well, I've been trying to hold off, and I have to ask this question. So you did a fantastic page in the IRCB zine that recently came out. We just shot the digital editions out to everybody.
Yes, you have some beautiful pieces in there. I was clicking
and your page is fantastic as well. I mean, I'm super proud of the folks we were able to get in contact with, to work with, like you especially. But we talked about which title you wanted to go with, and you picked Pokemon in Unfamiliar Places, and which was inspired by your book, It's All Greek. I said that out loud, and it became a title of the show, and then you drew it. I thought that was perfect. So I'm curious. You play Pokemon Go. Do you have a favorite Pokemon or current favorites in Pokemon? I just got to know.
Yes. So Sandshrew is my OG favorite.
Okay.
Because I was there at the beginning. I saw the first generation of Pokemon, and I thought it's based off of Pangolin, and I need to have it. I do have other favorites as they just keep coming out with more. But I am blanking at the moment on those ones. Sandshrew is the OG.
Sandshrew. I dig it. We all have a Pokemon from 150 that we love, or the 151 that we love, right?
Well, I do love it because I think somebody posted a long, long time ago where they're like, the great thing about Pokemon is that there is, no matter which Pokemon it is, it could be the most obscure Pokemon, the most boring, the most, normal. There is someone out there that loves that Pokemon. And it's true for all of them. So
I totally believe that because I'm in a group of people that play Pokemon Go, and the array of Pokemon that these people love, I'm just like, oh, I had no idea that you loved Klefki. That's such a strange Pokemon to love, but I'm glad that it's your favorite, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like, what do you mean your favorite is Doug Trio?
Right.
Nobody likes Doug Trio.
there was a TikTok that I saw recently where a guy put out a poll and had like 4,000 or 5,000 responses trying to figure out like what everybody's favorite Pokemon was, and to figure out if there were Pokemon that was nobody's favorite out of the sample that he had. And I think he said out of like the 4,000 or 5,000 people that responded, he had 3 Pokemon that did not get any votes, and it was like Spearow and then 2 other Pokemon from like some of the later generations.
I always feel that's ironic because it was one of those Pokemon where I'm like, I don't know that anyone likes this Pokemon, and that endears it to me more.
Right. Well, sometimes it's just like, that's just a bird. There's nothing more to it than it is just a bird, Yeah.
You gotta have normal ones in there. You gotta ground us,
Exactly.
You gotta keep us humble.
Exactly. I mean, I love the reoccurring bit in the Pokemon franchise is that like every generation comes with just like a bird of some kind that is your best friend as you play through the game series. Like that's your number 2 in your team for some reason. That's how I always end up playing it, at least. But okay, glad to know. Sandshrew, if we ever happen to meet in person, you can guarantee you that I will find some sort of Sandshrew merchandise that I will force you to take from me.
Yes.
Mike came back from his last Japan trip with a Pokemon plushie for all of his friends. It was very nice.
Did you go to the Pokemon Center?
I went to 4 Pokemon centers in Japan.
As you should.
I will say 2 of them were by accident, which is a strange thing to say. But my wife and I, when we went to Kyoto, we got out of a train, out of our train. We went up the elevator because we were starving, and we found out that the food court was on the top floor of this mall that was above the train station.
Oh, that's weird.
And so we went to the top floor, and of course, what was right next to the food market? Like Pokemon store and the Nintendo store. So we went to both of those, and I was like, oh, that's a coincidence, So
happy coincidence.
Yeah, we came back with a lot of Pokemon merch, which was
you got to go with one. When you go to Japan, you go with your clothes luggage packed into an even bigger empty luggage.
Yeah. You do what we did, which is go to Japan with 1 luggage and then come back with 3 luggage because we were like, while we're there, we might as well buy something, right?
Yep.
Anyways, but
you're coming back with stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that floors me, and I think they just open a Nintendo store somewhere in California that's like as big as some of the ones in Japan. Anyways,
they might have. They need to do it elsewhere. They need to make it easier for me to get my stuff.
I know, right?
I need my Pokemon toilet paper, please.
That's going to be a clip now. I'm sorry. That's fine.
That's fine. It's what stood out to me when I went to Pokemon Center. I'm like,
right.
Okay.
Well, the fact that there's cutlery for like all levels of food, like when you're like for babies and for teenagers and for adults, and like fine gold plated cutlery and goblets that have Pokemon on them. I'm like, man, this is serious. If there is
anything that the Japanese understand over anything else, it is branding and merchandising.
Oh, sure. Sure.
And it doesn't even have to be their creation, because that's why, you know, Peanuts and Tintin and Moomin do so well over there too, is because they're like, it's the mascot culture, you know, it's like, this is a simply designed character. We can do so much with this.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's astounding. I just want to be able to go into a store in the United States, not have to travel to a foreign country, and have 800 Pokemon plushes available to me in various sizes. That's the thing that floored me about all the Pokemon centers, is just how many plushes they have available. Because it's not like they rotate them out in batches of 20. It's like they rotate them out in batches of 300, which is insane to me.
Yes.
But
the sign that I have made it, that I am a highbrow person now, that I've, you know, cracked into the upper echelons of monetary class, is that I will have the full size Snorlax in my house.
You have a room in your house that is just for the Snorlax that you can sleep on, right?
That is the Snorlax room. That is where I go to chill with Snorlax.
Right. Guarded by what? Like the full-size Cerula guard or Cerula something? I can't remember. A Corellia?
Snorlax can hold his own.
Yeah. Anyways. All right. I could talk about Pokemon all day. I think the other thing I did want to talk about is you have a new book coming out in July called Meat Eaters. What is this book about? Because the cover is terrifying. What is going on there?
Good. I know, we were talking about murder, and then we're like, we'll move on to the comics that you do. And I'm like, oh, you mean the 3 comic books, 2 of which are about murder?
Yeah.
And then one's wholesome. So Meat Eaters is about a girl named Ashley who wakes up to discover that she is dead. And she does not want to be dead. It's not in her life plan. Or her unlife plan. She just wants to figure out what's normal and get there, you know, like the rest of us, when you're at that age group where you're like, you know, she's college age, she's at that age group where it's like everyone else seems to know how to do the human thing, and now she has become more inhuman than ever. So she has to figure that out.
Interesting. Well,
yeah, and then also just the horror of something really, really bad can happen to you and nothing else changes. You still have to, you know, go through the motions of life.
Oh no, this is too real.
Yeah, no, exactly. I always tell my friends, I'm like, you know, my comics are always me working through something with an unwilling audience. Yeah, no, so it is a creepy book. Like I said, she's obviously dead. There are other creepies in the world that she inhabits, and she finds out about that pretty quickly.
So is this, I guess, this is a weird question, but is this more of a supernatural and beyond, or is this like a slice of life with a supernatural element to it?
Oh,
and
I think it does straddle both of those.
Okay.
It's if Ashley, the main character, got what she wanted, it would be slice of life, but that's not how life works. So it's supernatural.
Okay.
You know? Okay.
Oh boy. Well, I'm hesitantly looking forward to this, I guess.
I hope it's good.
Yeah.
You know, it's when you're in comics, obviously you get editors and everything. You get editors and designers and if you're lucky, like there are people, you know, I've done the self-publishing route, so in which case you don't have anyone. Sure. But you're creating comics in such a small vacuum that by the time it actually gets into the world, you're like, but is this any good? Because I am the only person who looked at it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, you've seen success in, like, you know, in a lot of different mediums, right? In terms of like self-publishing versus Kickstarter versus, you know, other publishing worlds. So I think, you know, I'm sure this is going to be great, right?
You know, I'm almost to the point where I can believe people like what I do. You know,
okay,
I'm getting there.
Oh man, well, this, for some reason, I'm getting Heart in a Box vibes out of this comic for some reason, which another book that I love.
I think that's a really good point of entry if you're looking for something that's already out there.
Gotcha. Oh man, well, all right, I got to stop staring at this cover because it is freaking me out. Kait, any last questions before we wrap up here?
Did you write Heart in a Box?
No, Kelly did that one.
Okay,
that was the first thing
book.
that was the first one we did together. Okay. I also really love that book. I
was quick trying to look it up so I didn't sound like I didn't know anything. But I remember reading that book and I raved about it. And I think we had a short, was it a Patreon series, Mike, where we would do like one book versus another book?
Yeah.
Book and we would like argue whose book was better. And I was like, my book's better. Heart in a Box is better than anything else you could bring.
Thank you for fighting the cause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it again. Bring it back, Mike.
Heart in a Box is one of those books where I'm really pleased to see that everyone who's picked it up has been like, this is really good. It's just a function of getting it to people's hands. It was a little more under the radar because I think Kelly had only done a couple one-shots or mini-series before Heart in a Box. I think she had done a Buffy run as her starting point, and then maybe a couple others. And then, so this was the first really big book that was just her inception. And then me coming along going, I will help you make this thing because it's good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Like I said, we're big fans, so thank you, for coming and chatting with us today. And again, we're super pleased to have the digital version of our zine out with your page in it, and are all looking forward to all the upcoming books, more Black Cloak, more Meat Eaters. So I'm super excited for the future that is being held for you, Meredith. But I think that is where we will wrap things up for today. Again, thank you so much for joining us today, everybody listening, everybody out there. If you're listening to this episode live, we appreciate you. But yeah, Zander's our editor on the show. Thank you to him. Thanks to Brian for proof listening. Next week's episode, if I'm not mistaken, is a huge one. It's maybe the biggest one. No, 2 weeks, excuse me. Next week's episode is a pre-recorded episode. We're doing our Goodreads theme of the month. That's me, Paloma, and Brian. And in 2 weeks, you can hear me and I believe Nick talking with our good pal Paul. It's a panelist focus episode. Paul is the second to last person we're going to talk on our panelist series, which is going to be very excited about the very, very earliest days of I Read Comic Books way back in 2015. So be excited, get excited for that in 2 weeks. But I think that does it for this week. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Meredith, for being here. Again, thank you to Brian and Zander. Thank you to everybody out there. Until next time, comics are good, and so are you.